Hey, today we're jumping all in on farming. Real estate farming is an important part of everybody's business. I just launched a brand new team here less than 30 days ago. We've already got 4 agents and onboarding 2 more tomorrow, and we're super excited about that, and we're starting a new farm. Now, my last team, we used to farm, so I'm going to be implementing a lot of what we used to do there in this new business. That said, whether you're a brand new agent or you're just looking to refine what it is that you're doing for farming, this is going to be a great video for you. First, we're going to talk about what is farming. Is it the right fit for you? Then we're going to get into how do you select a farm and what key things you should be looking at. And then lastly is going to be some key tips on how you should farm. And so we're going to be breaking all that down for you right now. Now, before we jump into that, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, that you like this video and share it, because you're not the only person who has these questions. And do yourself a favor and do the other people in your community a favor and share videos like this, whether it's mine or somebody else's, that are going to help them grow their business. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. So the first place we got to start is we got to ask, is farming for you? Is farming for you? It's a commitment to a specific geographic area, and most people will tell you, you got to be in it for at least a year. I actually believe that should be longer, 15 to 18 months without receiving a single closing from there. That's how long you should expect it. Now, the reality is we're seeing results in a lot of people's businesses much faster than that. But you have to have that long-term commitment there to think, I won't get a closing from this for 15 months. That's a pretty big pill to swallow. So you have to be committed to farming. You also have to know that you're not just going to be able to send out mailers and watch the leads come on in. Now, will people come and respond to your mailers? Yeah, and we'll talk about messaging here in just a few minutes. But the other thing is you have to be active in that community, going to local events, putting YouTube videos up, all these different things that show you're a market expert. They can't just see you on the flyer that they throw away every month. Also, understand that you're going to have to nail your messaging on the postcard, on the pieces of mail that you're focusing on. In addition to that, you're going to have to track everything really well and make sure that whoever is answering the phone on the other side of that number you put on that flyer, or whoever's making those calls, let's say you have a QR code on it, which is something I recommend, and you're getting inbound leads, who's making those calls? Are they aware of what's on that flyer? Are they committed to speed to lead? Are they committed to saying the right messaging and using the right script every single time? Because these leads are too expensive to just let fly out the door and just hopefully the person handled it the right way. You can't do that. But if you are committed to making sure that every lead gets processed the right way, and that you may go an entire 12 to 15 months without receiving a paycheck that you can tie directly to this farming campaign, then farming is probably going to be right for you. There's huge benefits for farming, right? You become that local expert, you become the go-to person. It starts compounding over time because your mailers, not everybody's ready to sell at that moment, but over time you've saturated and you've built up a big group of people that know who you are, and at the very least will give you a shot at listing their home. Now, you might not always get every listing, but you want every shot you can get. And that's what farming is really all about. And so building up that notoriety, it really pays off. And guess what? It gets easier as time goes on. Those are some really great benefits, because that is how a lot of really big businesses are built. Even though there's plenty of people with Zillow and all these other things, farming is still part of most of their businesses for a very good reason. It has a great return on investment once things get going, if you nail it. Okay, so let's talk about picking a farm. You decided, hey, I'm farming. Okay, where are we going to pick it? Well, here's the thing. There's a couple factors. Everyone always says, like, hey, you should pick a neighborhood where you really want to sell, or you should pick your neighborhood. I'm in the corner of you should pick your neighborhood. If you live there, it's just the easiest, because you also want a couple other things. You know you have to be part of that community. So if you already live there, it's that much easier. Now, I'm not saying you can't farm another neighborhood. By no means am I saying that, but I am saying if all this other stuff aligns and it happens to be in the neighborhood where you live, that is absolutely the best option for you. So here's what we're going to look at. First, we got to look at turnover rates. How many people sell their houses in a given year, right? In Southern California, we have neighborhoods that are 2, 3, 4% turnover rates. And as you head a little bit east away from the water, you're going to see places that are 5, 6, 7% turnover rates. And so although the prices might be higher on the coast, that means there's fewer opportunities. And so that's a big thing you got to look at. What I look for is if it has 5% or more turnover rate and it's in a halfway decent neighborhood, I really like that farm. And so that's one thing you got to look at. The second thing you got to look at is competition. Is there anybody dominating in that area? If there is, that doesn't mean you shouldn't go there, but it does mean you have to be aware that you have a lot more fight, a lot more battle ahead of you to gain market share with somebody who's extremely dominant. And that research is a little bit easier when you live in that neighborhood because you're the one receiving their farming. You're the one seeing all their letters. And so that's a big issue there. Now, the next thing we need to talk about is what does it look like to actually set a budget? Most of the time I get that question in the form of, Isaac, how many houses should I farm? I want to farm 5,000. How much should I spend? Without getting super complicated, here's how you come up with your budget or your farm size. And I actually say you shouldn't come up with a budget. You should have a budget, all right? And you should also know what your mailing process is going to look like. That will determine the size of your farm. A lot of people go, well, you got to farm 2,000 houses. Well, how do you know that? How do you know what my budget is and my commitment to frequency is? So here, let me show you this. Here's the formula that I would choose. And not even I would choose. This is what we're doing right now. So for the first 8 weeks in a farm, we're going to mail every single week. It sounds exhausting, right? And it is. So we're going to mail every single week for the first 8 weeks. After that, it's twice a month for another 3 months. So altogether, that's 5 months worth of mailing, right? And most people, they're going to mail once a month for those first 5 months. So they're going to do 5 pieces over those 5 months. I'm going to do, what's that? 6 plus 8, that is 14 pieces in that same amount of time, right? And then, so that's 5 months. Let's just count for the 1 year that I mentioned. Okay, let's just pretend that that's all we're committed to. So that's 5 months. And then that means there's another 7 months of mailing. Okay, so if I said, 14, so then there's 7 more. That's 21 pieces that I'm going to mail in the first year. So most people are going to go, oh, well, I just want to do monthly mailers. I wouldn't recommend it. You need to penetrate the first 8 weeks, still keep that frequency up for another 3 months, and then you can go once a month. Okay, now that's not talking about digital strategies or open houses or door knocking or anything. I'm just talking about mailing right now. And so when I look at that and I look at my budget, I need to then use that and say, here's my budget for this month or for this year, right? So let's say we're doing the annual. Here's my budget, and I know I'm doing 21 pieces. Okay, how many houses can I send 21 pieces to based on that budget? That should determine your size of your farm. It shouldn't be, I want this neighborhood and how am I going to figure out how to mail 2,000 houses? If the number after you look at how many pieces you want to send and what your budget that you're committed to is, if that ends up being 1,262 people, great, that's your farm. And if it ends up being 313 people or 7,025, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be like, oh, how am I going to figure out? Because here's what's going to happen. You use that, I'm committed to 21 mailings and my budget is this, and therefore I should be able to farm 637 houses. But you're like, I really want to get to 2,000. What's going to happen is you're going to end up doing lame, inconsistent marketing. You're going to send out one piece. You're going to miss a month once in a while because your budget's tight. Don't do that to yourself. You're better off successfully, consistently farming the 637 or whatever number I made up than half-hearted farming the 2,000. So do yourself a favor, do the right thing. I wanted to labor that point because I get that question a ton. And so we ended up using that exact formula because we didn't want to break the bank. And in addition to that, we wanted to make sure that we nailed it at the gate. Okay, Isaac, I've set my budget. I know I'm going to mail the 727 houses. Great. What do I do? What do I mail? Right? That's the next question. And these are really simple things, right? Market updates. You got to get a market update part of your mailer. You want to let them know what's happening in the market because that's what they really care about if they are going to look at that. You're also going to have some success stories on there, but here's the one that a lot of people miss out on because there are some really good things out there like newsletters. Newsletters are great because you can include a lot of information. Most recent sales, market stats, upcoming events that are local, any sponsorships that you're part of, any community events that are existing, whether you're helping or not, those are really valuable and really helpful. So make sure that you get some of those and work those into your mailing pieces, right? In addition to that, these are not just listed, just sold, proof of success things, right? Those happen in real time. These 21 are separate from that. So you just listed, just sold, proof of success mailer to the exact same group, to the exact same neighborhood. That does not count as your monthly mailer. Okay? That is something different. Now, here's the thing I really want you to think about and consider. And I'll do another video on this too. But it's, what offers are you making in that mailer? Specifically, what guarantees are you offering? Guaranteed sale, guaranteed lease back, buy before you sell, use our money to renovate your home to maximize your value. Having those types of special offers and those guarantees really makes you stand out inside the marketplace. Just a picture of you in a suit with a nice watch talking about how amazing you are, not going to do as well as saying, I'm going to solve your problems. Now, based on your local market and based on what's going on in the industry and the market in general, that's going to help you determine that. A really good example is one where we used to farm and we used to say guaranteed lease back program. Well, that was in 2020 and 2021 where it was extremely hard to sell your house and then go find another one because it was such a tough time as a buyer out there in the market. And we had a lot of sellers that were saying, look, I would love to sell my house, but I just don't want to be a buyer in today's market, or I don't know where I would go. I don't want to have to rent for a few months while I'm looking for a home. And so we had a plan where we did a guaranteed lease back, and there was terms and all this stuff. But the reality is that messaging doesn't really help right now because that's not solving the problem for the client at the moment. And so you have to figure out what that guarantee looks like. But I'm telling you right now, do yourself a favor, get in touch with me or somebody that you know that does guarantees and work through what that looks like, because that gets the absolute best response. And here's why. Because the person receiving your flyer, your mailing, is going to feel dumb by at least not giving you a shot. By looking at this saying guaranteed sale at my asking price, or they'll pay me the difference, guaranteed sale, or they'll buy my home, right? All these other guarantees. Well, they go, well, I at least got to call them. I'd feel foolish not to. That's what you want to do with your mailers. Okay, everything else, I promise you, there's a million softwares that can help you, Core Fact, all these other places that can help you with your monthly newsletter. Those are all going to be great, but you need to get clear on, I need a message that's going to attract people and that's going to get people to pick up the phone because they would feel foolish not to. That's the big deal with mailers. So we got to be consistent. We already know that. We already got to commit before we spend a single dollar. We already got to know exactly how many mailing pieces I'm going to send out my first year. I also need to know what the messaging is every single month. What's my messaging? Is it the same as last month? Do I have the same guarantees or something that's happened in the market that makes it more interesting, right? Those things are really important. Now, another piece that sometimes happens to sneak into our pieces is anything big that we think headlines are promoting. So a good example, we have not done this yet, so just an asterisk on this. I have not tried it yet, but it's something that we just talked about, which is having a QR code that says, want to learn more about the big commission lawsuit. Why? Because we're having some sellers ask about that. Hey, do I really not have to pay a commission to the buyer's agent? What's that look like? We have a QR code that links them to a video breaking down what that looks like. That for sure we are sending to sellers when we book a listing appointment, because we want to handle that objection or answer that question and be of help to them in advance, so that when we walk in, they kind of already have some context for that part of the conversation. But that's just a little bonus tip. Now, the other thing is this, that when you have a mailer going out consistently with a guarantee, the people picking up the phone, whether it's you, your team, your ISA, whatever, they have to know what's on that mailer. They have to know what the messaging is. They also have to know the terms and conditions of whatever guarantees, because that will ruin a fantastic lead. If they see, whoa, buy before you sell program, that's really interesting. It sounds just like what we need. Let me call them. And then the person who picks up the phone goes, what? What program? And yeah, you know what? I'll have to get back to you on that. I hadn't heard. You just blew it. You lost all the faith. You might as well just never mail that person again. Now, I'm not saying actually give up on them, but what I am saying is you just squandered a fantastic opportunity. So if you're going to commit to mailing, commit to the budget, commit to the size, commit to the amount of mail you're going to send out, commit to having unique value propositions, and commit to a consistent follow-up process that matches perfectly with the messaging that goes on with the mailers. So on our team, for example, as we mail out this month, we're giving our team the mailer and we're saying, read this. What questions do you have? What do you think people are going to ask on the phone? Great, let's role play. multiply that. If you are doing these things and you're committed to also engaging in the community, going to local events, sponsoring local sports is a big thing. We just picked up a new sponsorship spot for a Little League baseball team in the farm that we're going to be farming, and we're really excited about that, and we will be there. Now, it happens to not be the neighborhood that I live in, so understand that I looked at the neighborhood that I live in. It didn't make sense to farm. The neighborhood that my business partner lives in does make sense to farm, but guess what? Guess who's going to be showing up to events just as much? I am, because I'm committed to being consistent in that farm, because I want to dominate. I want to generate business there, and my agents will succeed as a result of that. So hopefully you got some value out of this. Make sure that you share this video, subscribe to this channel, because we're always giving great tips. And if you do have any questions, you just have that one question sticking out in your mind where it's like, well, how would I do this? Or could you give me an answer about that? Comment on this video, or in the description, there's actually a link where you can book one-on-one time with me. Happy to help and answer the questions to the best of my ability. And until next time, happy selling.